Dorino is asking, like, what's the one thing I should do? What's the one thing? What would be my recommendation? What's the general recommendation? What's something that will keep me focused on this and get me in line? And my answer, and we can expand upon this as a group, my answer is that you have to choose, or not have to, you should choose, if you have trouble focusing on one approach to these principles or one method with these principles, you have to, or should come to, some kind of decision within yourself. You should contemplate it. You shouldn't just make a rash decision. You could contemplate, what interests me most about these ideas right now? Like, what is it? Is there a certain approach, a certain technique that I resonate with the most? Or is there a certain approach or technique that I've had success with before that I know I like? It doesn't matter if you've never had a technique that you've liked before. If it's more about, like, what resonates with you right now. And think about that. Don't just think about it briefly, but really give it some time. This can take a couple of days. Think about what you really are into. Like, why are you watching these videos, reading these books, listening to me talk? Like, what is it that draws you in? There's some avenue there. Pick that avenue, whatever it may be, and focus on that. And don't just focus on it for a couple of days, but give yourself at least a couple of weeks. Last group session, we were talking about doing, for instance, the success indicator, which is one technique or avenue, doing that for a month. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a success indicator you do. The point is, any avenue or approach you take, I would at least give it a month of just doing that. And then I would shut off as much of the other noise as you can. Now, you're welcome to listen to different teachers and read books, but if it is making you feel unfocused and confused, then you just want to go back to that one thing. There's a book called The One Thing. Some of you have probably heard of it. It's a business book. The guy who founded Keller Williams, I believe, wrote it. That's a good book talking about the one thing. That there's usually, especially when we feel stuck, we can go back to a few things, or ideally one thing to focus on. And certainly with LOA, we can just do one thing for a while. We don't have to say, oh, I'm just going to do this one thing for the rest of my life. But we can certainly say, I can give myself at least a couple of weeks or a month to just focus on this one thing and not do this other stuff. And the reason I'm doing this is, when I haven't had this degree of focus, I haven't gotten the results I wanted. And I will feel a lot better about myself. Personally, I'm saying now, I would feel a lot better about myself that, like, if this stuff's not working for me currently in the way I want, I'm going to focus on just one thing, and I'm going to go down guns a-blazing. Like, I'm going to focus on the one thing that I feel like I have the most success with, that I like the most, and just do that. And if I still don't get the results I wanted, c'est la vie. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, but I'm not going to be trying all this other stuff that might work, that some teacher or guru says is interesting, but doesn't really appeal to me. I'm going to do what interests me the most. And then if I fail, I fail, but at least I failed on my own terms. And, if you know me, I think if you do fail in that way, you're going to learn something from that experience that's pretty deep anyway, which might be, I don't want to do LOA stuff anymore. I might want to do some other type of thing instead, some other kind of therapy or counseling or self-improvement or whatever. But choose what you like best, what resonates the most, and use that. I think that's my own opinion. I welcome some people chiming in. I'm going to read a couple comments now. It looks good. Thank you, Kate, for saying that. And yes, Suzanne, day 23, excellent. So, the one thing that we've been talking about last in January sessions was the success indicator, because several people in the group wanted to experiment with the success indicator, and we're having success using the success indicator. And I've been speaking about it a bunch in these videos that I've been making on YouTube. The success indicator is a good example of one thing you can do. but like I said, it doesn't have to be a success indicator. It doesn't have to be as intense as a success indicator, which usually is going to be, at least 15, 30 minutes a day. It can be, the one thing can be as simple as doing, 5 minutes of relaxation exercises like we just did at the beginning of this session each morning. It can be as simple as that, but yeah, choose the one thing that really resonates for you would be my advice. All right, enough of my blabbing.